that first it should come uh, from within you, from your understanding and the direction that you want to take. And then data becomes very crucial to validate those hypotheses that you have made or the direction that you want to go into. I started out as a journalist. By education, I did my BTech from NIT Surat in mechanical engineering. Then I was with Tata Motors for a year, but writing and communications was always kind of my creative mode of expression. And I was used to write for the college magazine and things like that. That's how I kind of landed up with Your Story early on, like the first 7 years after Tata. I was working with Your Story in Bangalore. And while at Your Story in 2012-13 is when I had gone to Himachal for a 2-week break. And somehow those 2 weeks ended up becoming 7 years. And so pretty much a very early on into the digital nomad ecosystem, and I've been working remotely from that point onwards. And so 2016 is something, there was a break of some sort. Like when I was in Himachal, a lot of things shifted for me personally, and I got introduced to Vipassana and certain spiritual practices. And from 2020, I was completely away from the professional world, where I went on a Narmada Parikrama. This is a 3,500 kilometer walk along the banks of Narmada without phone, without money. And all of that happened. So I was on almost a 4-year complete sabbatical break from professional world. And there were a lot of questions within me at that point in time, and exploring them, I kind of came to some kind of centering within myself, found my teacher. I followed this Advaita school of thought, non-dual philosophy, and with that understanding, I decided to come back to the professional world, and spoke to a few founder friends I had, and somehow LogiNext was the first opportunity that kind of came my way. And I look at communications, content, a large part of marketing, and this is how I kind of, from journalism to completely away from the system, and then back into the communications world. So that's how I've landed up here. So the way I look at data is, in the tech world as well, like there's a lot of conversations around data, and data is important, but the frame of mind or where I come from is, I believe data is something that one uses to back up your intuition, or because there are a lot of things that kind of shape us there while building a business, while building a communication strategy. It can be anything. And if we purely go by data, that will lead us somewhere. But what my experience tells me, and what I would like to rather believe, is that experience and intuition comes first. And because there are certain things that that have influenced you, and certain belief systems you work with, and it's very important to go with that first and validate that with data. So that's how I look at the importance of data, that first it should come from within you, from your understanding and the direction that you want to take. And then data becomes very crucial to validate those hypotheses that you have made or the direction that you want to go into. So that's how I look at data. So at LogiNext, we've been doing multiple, it's a global company. We're headquartered in New York. We have offices in Bangalore, Singapore, correct me, as in not Bangalore, Bombay. The engineering team sits out of Bombay. We have a couple of people in Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai. So we have done campaigns which are across the globe, and a lot of it we have very in-depth data on. We have a very strong content pool as well, so we know what kind of content is working where. A research team is there which is kind of looking out for events and special things which are very region specific or nationality specific. So depending on that, we come out with a overall chart or overall calendar of what are the campaigns that we want to do throughout the year. And we also have certain goals which we have set out. For instance, fast food restaurant chains or QSR chains are a big target market for us. So we follow like whatever might be happening in the market, but this is one area that we want to go after. So we build a campaign around US and QSR chains, and then have our narratives and see what and that's where kind of data comes in, and see what kind of positioning we can do with our campaigns, so like tactics within the campaign. And we use basically data for making the most out of the hypothesis that we've come out with our own research. There are two segments, like as I mentioned, fast food chains and courier, express, and parcels. And our one of the interesting thing that kind of came out was like, while we had clients in North America and we did a few press releases with the customer wins in this region, and while distributing them, somehow we were seeing that there were good pickups, or like data was showing that there was a good coverage in the LATAM region, which was not really our target market as such, or we didn't think that this is a market that we should be focusing on. But that was an interesting insight that we kind of got, that there is maybe the North American market is matured, and LATAM is growing fast, and hence there is more coverage and there's more media and news around it. And so then we focused our sales team, like a portion of it was dedicated towards LATAM region, and we saw significant amount of traction from that. And we recently did a press release with Cargo Expresso, which is one of the biggest courier companies in the Latin American region. So that was in a way driven by data and insights which came in and told us that we should be doing more in a particular region. And I think that was one of the examples that's striking in the recent last 6 months that came about. Engagement, so of course there are broad level metrics like number of pickups, tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3 publications, which publications are picking up. But one important measure is, it comes a bit beyond that stage when the conversions are happening, is how to measure basically your relationships with a journalist, or tracking those engagements, like even without sending out a press release, or is the product pitch or is your pitch leading to engagements? Is it genuinely generating interest within the journalist community? So that is an metric which I kind of look out for specifically. Like if I'm sending out even cold reach outs, not relating to any news per se, but is a journalist communicating or engaging with my pitch or content, or so that is a very key metric that I look at. And I think especially on the I like that feature on the VCT platform where you can at least track or know which journalists are showing interest. I sent this out, and so this is one engagement from journalists before, or because this is something you can track over time. And when you send out a newsworthy piece, like if it's a funding announcement or it's a customer win, it's a definite sure shot that it will kind of, because journalists in essence are looking for news. But apart from that, how do you come across as a thought leader? Do journalists genuinely reach out to you to get interest, get insights from? So that is what I treat as a success metric in building relationships, or building relations, which will eventually lead to either coverage, or those are the typical metrics that any communications person would be tracking. Viziki is definitely something that we use. We evaluated Prowly also before this. Very honestly, we've not been, since we've been looking to go out in the international markets and just spreading the word. So data is crucial. PR Newswire, again, they have a good insights in terms of whatever press releases we do, what are the reach, what was the pickups, but very honestly, it's a pretty broken ecosystem that way, because a lot of these pickups, what I also see is that over time get deleted or they're not there. So it's in a way difficult to measure really what's the impact. So what we are trying to do is like see if these pickups over time, or like how are they resulting into traffic. So we've put in parameters on the website and see like how much traffic is coming in through the pickups that we've had. So I think it's still an early stage for PR, tech-led PR to come in, and it's evolving. But yeah, for me right now, like these are the Viziki, PR, Newswire, and we work with a few agencies as well. So insights coming in from there is something that we track. I think one thing would be that do your research like really well, as in be actually look at yourself as an analyst of the space, as in a journalist should be wanting to talk to you because you have insights on the space. And this can probably be done by building a particular niche, because if you're working in an agency or typically you will have clients in multiple domains, but over time if you can bring it to one and actually become a voice to be reckoned with in that domain, then building relationships or achieving your goals becomes much more easier. So that is definitely one. A second, fueling into the first one, is again like document whatever you are gaining insights on, or whatever you are hearing, because you get to interact with founders, you get to interact with industry leaders. And so not just building relationships with journalists, but who are the other analysts in the space, and can you also, when you document these things, maybe through a blog or through a video or whichever way it can be, then it again becomes a personal brand for yourself and you become better at what you do. So that would be the second point. And third point would be, I think, be open in general, as in this is a very generic thing, but being open to new ideas, being open to different thoughts and views, and this is basically being open to new life situations. This is what opens up the worldview and helps you to communicate better, because as a communications professionals, sometimes there will be a crisis of some kind. Sometimes there will be, you'll have to be dealing with egos of people, or basically how do you navigate through this. So for this, it's very important for a communications person to be really open and absorb and listen. So listening is one big skill that one should be developing in order to, and not be judgmental at the same time, because a company or whatever you're representing can have any position. So your role is to be neutral, taking all the inputs and communicate what the company's goal is. So it's in a way a very responsible job, and listening and being open to all kinds of possibilities is a skill set one should be developing.